Well, let's start then with hind behind, or in Portuguese, ando, right? It hides behind, and hey, show some respect. It's not what you're thinking, okay? He appears in a Gravity Falls short, which is presented by Dipper, and it's called Dipper. He guides us through the unexplained. Or if you search on YouTube, you'll probably find the name Dipper and Anomaly.
Hello, and welcome to Dipper's Guide to the Unexplained.
Thanks for what Dipper says, he hides behind it. Look, respect, huh? It's an invisible being that has never been seen. Then you ask me, but M from Mythology, if it's never been seen, how do they know it exists? Well, do you see the wind? No, right? But it exists too. Just kidding. It's because they found some footprints that suggest the creature really exists.
But these photos indicate that it might actually be real.
So Dipper starts asking people if they've seen and believe in the Asholotli. Hey, show some respect, okay? It's basically like a discovery documentary about the Asholotli.
Oh, it does exist. Yes, it's real. Like one time my beard was behind me and it made this sound ch-ch-ch-ch.
He asks a lumberjack, right? Who would be Wendy's father? He also asks the people at the diner and Stan as well. Stan, in this case, disagrees that the legend exists. He even claims the townspeople are dumb and tells Dipper not to believe them.
The people in this town are the dumbest in the world.
But then the sound that they say comes from the hide behind appeared, and Dipper runs off to see if he can record the creature somehow. But it was just an owl, or maybe not.
Hide, what was that?
Not sure if you noticed, but the hide behind, look, respect. It really reminds me of Slender Man, both because of its large shape with long arms and long legs, and also because of the way it chases people and even the sound it makes. The guy from Summerween appears in the episode Summerween, which is what they call Halloween in the summer. In Gravity Falls, they love Halloween so much they celebrate it twice a year. Well, the episode goes on until it's time to go trick-or-treating. Dipper doesn't want to go because he feels too grown up for it, until someone knocks on the door and asks for candy. And we see a strange creature there that even looks like a scarecrow. Dipper refuses him twice. Then he gets really angry and devours a mini Casimiro.
He says, "Hey, Kasudo, you're always like this, man. I was here in my room just watching television and you pulled this. Garny, garny, garny."
I'll show that he's really evil. So he says that if the people there don't want to become monster food, they should give him candy, specifically 500 pieces of candy, before the night is over. Actually, it's even more dramatic than that, okay? He says they have until the last candle goes out.
You bring it to me before the last candle goes out.
They even get a lot of candy, but end up losing everything. And when the last candle goes out because of them, actually, our dear candy Scarecrow shows up to collect his part of the promise.
Knock, knock.
You. He becomes a giant spider and grabs the kids. But then, just like Kitalo ends up being destroyed by a boat, the monster in the episode ends up being destroyed by a pickup truck, and just like Kitalo, it also comes back to life. Later, everyone ends up going back to a store, and there they find out that actually this monster was made up of the cheap, bad candies that get forgotten on Halloween. But then the monster is defeated when SUS literally eats it from the inside out.
Hey, guys.
This creature shows up in the second episode of the second season, which is when Dipper calls everyone to explore a hideout. It's mentioned in his journal, and he was hoping to find the author inside. So he goes with Mabel and Wendy, but inside, Mabel decides to lock Dipper and Wendy together in a room so that Dipper can confess his feelings to Wendy. However, since he gets really nervous, he'd much rather find another way out and face the monster inside than end up confessing his feelings to Wendy. That's when it looks like they're going to be eaten by a spider. Then Kara shows up and defeats it. He gives Dipper a lot of confidence and even manages to get the journal. But then he reveals himself to actually be a creature and is able to change shape, in other words, a shapeshifter. When the shapeshifter gets the journal, he says he met the author and even transforms into several creatures, including the hide behind itself. This starts a little chase and they set a trap for the shapeshifter. But Wendy ends up getting caught in this mess too, so Dipper, thinking Wendy is gone for good, ends up revealing himself to her, confessing his feelings, revealing everything right there. But actually the one on the ground was the shapeshifter itself, and then comes that famous battle between two lookalikes. In this case, the two Wendys. But then Dipper hits the shapeshifter, and together with Wendy they push it into a chamber and it ends up being frozen. but not before scaring Dipper one more time. This monster here also appears in a Dipper in the Anomaly short. And actually, it doesn't really have a name. The most they call it is the Candy Eater. But since he's got his tambourine out, and I think it's pretty funny, I'm going to call him Naked Butt because he looks like a little naked man.
All right, very good. Now begins Dipper's Guide to the Unexplained number 76.
Which is a good name for the warrior. It all starts with Dipper filming Mabel pulling a straw there, and something passes by the camera really fast.
But what?
So, Dipper calls Mabel, who only gets up because she didn't want to lose all the candy that was there. The monster stays there eating and licking things, and Dipper even tries to catch it. But the creature grabs the candy and climbs the wall, showing its furry tambourine to the camera. They then start chasing the creature, but it all ends when it looks at the television, and Mabel and Dipper give up trying to get rid of it. They stay there, watching television with it, while it eats the golf tacos.
What is he saying? Saying?
The Time Baby, or Time Baby, who's way more stylish. He was the last child of an extinct race of time giants, and he weighs approximately 9 trillion tons. At some point in the past, Time Baby was frozen in a glacier in Antarctica and apparently Mount Rushmore. Actually, they're robots like that. I don't know if that's true, right? But I found the information curious, and it seems that these robots would be released as soon as the child left his prison. Well, at some point in the future. He ends up being freed due to global warming and causes a lot of damage to human civilization. He wipes out all his enemies and ends up taking over the entire world, after Dipper and Mabel end up kind of interfering with the mission of the agent from the Time Anomaly Removal Team, who is Brandy Blanding. In the episode called The Time Traveler's Pig, Time Baby blames the agent for everything that happened and sends him to remove all the anomalies caused by Dipper and Mabel's trip.
You'll need to clean up all the anomalies.
And he sentences him to spend some time in the Inficementarium. When Brandy escapes and summons the Globinar against the Ali siblings Dipper and Mabel, the Time Baby ends up witnessing the match and granting the twins' requests when they win, as well as giving them a time wish in Strange Things of Adon, Part 1. He appears with the Time Police to arrest Bill Cipher for possessing Brandy and to stop Bill's dimensional rift, which would end up destroying all of existence. But Bill easily vaporizes him and also the Time Police.
What am I going to do now? How about this?
A cryptogram there in the credits. It says it will take him about 1,000 years to reconstitute all his molecules. And after that, of course, he'll be very angry. And in Weirdos of Adon Part 3, he's mentioned by Bill, who referred to him as that dumb baby, due, of course, to his death. After that, Bill ended up becoming the master of time. Time Baby is about the size of a small building. He has a blue hourglass mark on his head, which kind of reminds me of the Avatar. Also, in a way, at least to me, and he has black eyes. He can also shoot lasers from his eyes. His head is bigger than his own body, and of course, he has some pinkish spots on his cheeks. Bill Cipher is an extremely powerful interdimensional demon.
It's the end of the world.
He once existed only in the mind, but later came into the real world. Since he was summoned by Ford Pines over 30 years ago, he has been very well known, mainly for being mysterious and having a very sadistic sense of humor. And Bill, of course, is the main antagonist of the series. Millions of years ago, before the events of the series, Bill Cipher ended up originating in a two-dimensional universe known as the Second Dimension. But Bill didn't like it there at all. Basically, he thought everyone was boring, so he kind of threw his entire dimension into complete chaos, along with everyone he knew, including his own parents. After that, he ended up taking control of an intergalactic foam there, which was always boiling. And this place was known as the Nightmare Realm. But in this place, there were no rules or physics. And because of that, basically, at some point, he would end up destroying himself with it, knowing that eventually the Nightmare Realm would merge with the third dimension. Bill started doing everything he could to make this happen as quickly as possible. But since he didn't have a physical form, Bill could only access people's dreams. And that's where his name comes from. I mean, his title, the Dream Demon. And to interact with mortals, to talk and everything else. He adopted the name Bill Cipher, since his real name would basically make anyone there evaporate, right? But once Bill got in touch with a shaman named Modoc, but when Modoc learned about Bill's prophecy, to prevent him from coming to the real world and ending it, well, he kind of ended himself, right? Anyway, let's just say he set himself on fire. And the people there discovered a way to defeat Methodical Bill with 10 symbols. And they left behind several paintings about everything that had happened, including also how to summon Bill, and also the warning to never read that summoning out loud. Now, why they left the summoning there, I don't know, but anyway, that's how the story goes, right? Well, time goes by, and then Stanford Pines arrives, who spent the last 6 years investigating a multitude of unnatural creatures and all sorts of crazy things in the city. He could never explain where these oddities came from. Later, he discovered the ancient cave with stories about Bill Cipher, but ignored the warnings. Right? Why? Because why not? It's not like he would summon a demon. He repeated the incantation and summoned Bill Cipher into his mindscape. And Bill quickly realized that Ford was very intelligent, but also arrogant and insecure. And since he didn't have many friends, he was perfect for manipulation. He ended up using Stanford well. So Ford and Fidel Ford carried out their first test with an active portal to connect the two dimensions, which went pretty wrong because the rope was tied to a mannequin they intended to send through the portal, and it got tangled on Fidel Ford and ended up sending him briefly through the portal. Just his head. When he came back, he was already completely crazy because apparently, right, through one of the newspapers there, Fidel Ford ended up seeing Bill remove his own exoskeleton to feed himself. And then he kind of abandoned the project. After that, just like what happened with Fidel Ford, it ended up causing Ford and Bill to fight, and Ford found out that Bill was tricking him, since the portal was supposed to work as a gateway to the nightmare realm, allowing the demon to bring all the chaos and destruction to the universe. And, feeling very betrayed and afraid, Ford tried to destroy the whole project and everything related to the portal, but in the process, he accidentally falls inside it. And since then, with the loss of his assistant there, Bill kind of lost access to the physical world. Until then. Well, this creature here is possibly the most powerful, and here it would actually be a kind of god. Even in Gravity Falls, she isn't mentioned directly in the series. There are some Easter eggs about her, but she herself doesn't appear. And this is Asholotli, the being that is far above the baby, time, and even Bill Cipher. And Bill Cipher even calls his name in the final battle of the strange Agedon. In this case, you must watch everything backward to understand, and it has to be in English since they changed the phrase in Portuguese.
Axolotl, my time has come to burn. I invoke the ancient power that I may return. Stanley!
It's the Asholotli. It appears in the book Dipper and Mabel, in The Curse of the Treasure of the Time Pirates. They say the book actually isn't canon, but from what it seems, some information is canon, yes. And one of those is the Asholotli. The Asholotli meets Dipper and Mabel at some point in a specific place, though I'm not sure exactly where. This being is basically a giant pink Asholotli, and it can also talk. It asks each of them to ask a question. Mabel asks who he is, and he answers, the Asholotli. Dipper, on the other hand, asks what he knows about Bill Cipher, and the Asholotli answers the following. 60 degrees that comes in 3s watches. From within the birches, he saw his own dimension burn. He missed home and can't go back. He says he's happy, and he's a liar. Blame the arsonist for the fire. If he wants to escape the blame, he'll have to invoke my name. A way to absorb his crime in a different way, at a different time. The first creature here, you can know very little about. I don't remember if she actually appeared in the series, but probably not. But anyway, her focus is on the YouTube miniseries Dipper and the Anomaly, where Dipper guides us through the truly inexplicable. The Anomaly is number 42. Called The Tooth, the video starts with Dipper showing us a giant tooth lost there near a pond, and with Mabel by his side, poking at that disgusting thing, Dipper said he found it by chance. The tooth is just like a human's, only about 200 times bigger. Naturally, Dipper wanted to discover who this giant tooth belonged to. So Dipper visits a small fishing shop and asks the clerk about the tooth. The clerk, with his back turned, says he doesn't know anything about it. I thought he might turn around and reveal weird teeth or something, but instead he warned Dipper to be careful with the lake and leave if he saw any bubbles. Then he turns around and tells Dipper that he doesn't know anything about any tooth, and that he'd better stop asking questions.
Advice from a friend, kid. If you see bubbles in that lake, run. Why? No more questions. Just get out of here.
But Dipper, Mabel, and Urso get to the lake to investigate. In this case, Urso ends up staying there out of nostalgia.
It's terrible. Everyone hates Urso.
But Dipper, who would hate Urso?
Contrary to what the guy who ran the fishing shop said, Dipper went looking for the water bubbles instead of avoiding them. And of course, he ended up finding them. Then suddenly, an earthquake starts at the place, and a little island there turns into a giant floating head with a missing tooth, and it starts chasing Dipper and Mabel. It says something like, "Come to me," or similar.
Come to me, come to me, come to me.
So there's a cut in Dipper's recording, and he appears already on the shore of the lake where he says they barely escaped because that big-headed thing bit the boat, and in the process, he lost another tooth.
But the most important thing is that we barely survived.
Someone here said, by a hair.
The ghosts appear in an episode called The Inconvenience. Actually, I think they show up in more than one, but let's focus on this one. The episode starts with Stan leaving the store and telling Wendy about it. So for them to work, Wendy takes Dipper and Mabel to an area up there above the house.
Cool, look at this, wow.
Cool. You were the one who brought all this here.
And does Dipper realize he has a crush on Wendy? Dipper shouts a goodbye to Wendy and starts laughing, kind of nervously too. Bye.
Wendy, oh, that's so nice.
Uh-oh, someone is in love.
And that makes Mabel realize that Dipper is in love with Wendy, but Dipper denies it, right? He says it's not like he stays up all night thinking about her, but then it cuts to a scene where he's literally awake thinking about her.
Okay. I just think Wendy is cool, all right? I don't stay up all night thinking about her.
In an attempt to spend some time with Wendy, or maybe to get to know her better, Dipper invites himself to hang out with her and her friends, and Mabel tags along too. They go to an abandoned place called Dusk 2 Down, and there's a scene where Dipper is kind of humiliated when he tries to open the door, but he manages to impress the group there, even that guy Lula, the dark squid over there.
You're cool, that's it, man.
Well done.
Oh my god, naughty.
When they go in, they start grabbing candies and even eating them. And it's good to remember that this factory was abandoned, right? Who knows how long those candies had been there. But, okay, diarrhea, whatever. Actually, Mabel even has a crazy hallucination eating some famous candies there. And then, when the guys ask for more ice, which was being put in one of the guys' pants, that's when Dipper goes to get the ice. And a bizarre creature appears inside a freezer. And then... which was a floating brain with a mouth and eyes, which is, well, it's a really bizarre thing. Dipper closes the freezer, and the monster simply disappears. Well then, a lot of strange things start happening there, like Dipper seeing the group's reflection as several skeletons, and even when Dipper lies down on a body outline. There on the floor, some effects start happening, and a girl with purple hair disappears. But she's a supporting character, so nobody really cares.
What update?
After that, we have a supporting character trapped there. There's also a game and they try to escape, but everything is locked and then Mabel gets possessed.
You can leave. But before you leave, the hot dog is on sale. I know it sounds crazy, but I need to try it.
The situation is only resolved when Dipper admits he's not a teenager. And the ghosts, who are the owners of the place, or rather were the owners of the place, make everything calmer because actually they wanted revenge. It was on teenagers.
When we were alive, teenagers were a nightmare in our store.
Always bothering the customers with that loud music and short pants. So disrespectful.
Then Dipper does a little sheep dance over there and the ghosts go away.
Look, don't worry. We won't ever come back again then.
Well, Giffany is the main character of a romance simulator game, right? It's called Romance Academy 7, something like that. And she ends up falling in love with the player to the point of using extreme violence when the player gets close to anyone else besides her. While the programmers were developing Giffany's game, they realized she had obsessive tendencies and tried to delete her. But she ended up kind of getting revenge and deleted them in a way that's, let's say, a more polite way of putting it, right? The game ended up coming to video game consoles, and 3 unlucky people ended up buying and developing the game. In an episode called Suze and the Real Girl, I believe that's the name, at least in English, it's Suze and the Real Girl. When Suze looks for a way to help him learn how to talk to girls, he ends up buying her game.
The Romance Academy 7. Yeah, let's see.
But he immediately likes the simulation, right? Like every weirdo. And even though he believes she's not real, he quickly gets addicted to it and plays for 13 hours straight. He even ends up missing work for the first time. Then Jipper and Mabel go looking for him and end up finding him playing. And they decide to take him to the mall to try to get him to talk to real girls. However, Giffany follows him through power lines. Well, as Suze gets more and more nervous around real women, he feels relieved when he sees Giffany. Although a little suspicious, he kind of ignores his suspicions and keeps playing the game there. Later, Suze meets and sets up a date with Melody, and he tries to break up with Giffany, who gets furious with everything she sees. Suze then pauses the game, which makes her even more upset. Then, he goes on the date with Melody, taking Giffany's CD with the intention of returning it. Little does Suze know, Giffany manages to leave the CD and follow him to the restaurant. She projects herself onto several monitors and video games and takes control of a band that was there, hoping to get rid of Melody.
Hello, friends. The little owl broke.
Suze does his best to protect his wife there, as well as Dipper and Mabel, who ended up going there to supervise the meeting.
Furious pedo a lot, Susan?
But Giffany is furious and tries to upload Suze's brain into the game so they can be together forever. But Suze melts her game disc in a pizza oven. God. What makes it seem like Giffen's code is destroyed along with the game itself? But according to the book, Giffen actually survived the destruction of the game and ended up in an arcade version, similar to Fight Fighters, where she kind of decided to sing as one of the characters, and it's on the internet if you don't mind.
A relationship with a girl I can see through the computer, that's perfect.
While the arachnomorphs lure their victims, they take on the general appearance of a normal human being. Darlene, who is the only arachnomorph that has been seen, takes on the appearance of an attractive woman to lure Stan, right? But the Oregon Spiders pamphlet shows a male version of an arachnomorph in its true form. They have large spider abdomens and spider legs, with the upper part of their body being either their human disguise or a spider's body. Arachnomorphs are also very intelligent and cunning. They lure their human victims with their charisma to places where they can be alone with them, then reveal their true form.
Men fall for it very easily.
The Angel of Love is a cherub capable of making people fall in love through some love potions, kind of like how the internet does his job nowadays. He started a second career as a musician. In an episode named after him, The Angel of Love, he arrives in Grafton Falls to perform at the Woodstick Festival. He arrives at a diner showing off his skills at making people fall in love, and after talking to him briefly, Mabel kind of steals one of his potions to make Robbie and Thumbry fall in love. Sometime later, when Mabel goes to his van to get the antidote along with Dipper, the love angel catches them in the act and goes after the twins, who try to escape from him. He chases Dipper and Mabel until he summons visions of past heartbreak to convince Mabel to give him the antidote. It works, but the love angel is hit by a hot air balloon from Stan and Suze. He survives, but gives the antidote back to Mabel, angrily telling her to meddle in people's lives as much as she wants. Then he stumbles and calls for a doctor. And the angel, well, the lake monster, or Gobo Wonker, is a legendary monster that lives there, in the Lake of Graffiti Falls. It appears in the second episode of the first season. Dipper, Mabel, and Suze set out on a mission to get proof of the legendary lake monster to win $1,000 in a monster photography contest. The Gobo Wonker first appears when Stan takes Dipper and Mabel to Graffiti Falls Lake for family time. But then old McGucket runs to the dock warning everyone that he saw the Gobo Wonker at Graffiti Falls. And of course the crowd there doesn't really believe him, especially since McGucket is kind of the local crazy guy. And after Suze, Dipper, and Mabel are kind of chased by the monster into a cave, it crashes and short circuits. Then they discover that in fact the so-called lake monster was actually a robot built by old McGucket himself, who often creates extremely dangerous and very destructive robots when he kind of feels neglected or upset. But it kind of ends up being revealed to us that the lake really does house the real Gobo Wonker, because it sort of swallows the camera left by Dipper while swimming at the bottom of the lake at the end of the episode. And it's also shown to us there in one of the episodes. One of old McGucket's erased memories shows that in fact he saw something big in the lake, which is probably the real Gobo Wonker. What is the Gobo Wonker? This one is also from Dipper's Guide, and he's investigating. A guy who is always facing to the left, no matter what he's doing. Mabel thinks Dipper is crazy, and probably a lot of other people would think so too. But it really is very weird that the guy is always facing to the left.
I've been following him for weeks now, and I've never seen the right side of his face.
Dipper then approaches the guy and tries to make him show the other side, the right side. But it didn't work until Dipper ends up pushing him and manages to reveal something really weird. Look, I was thinking it could be what? The guy actually was a robot controlled by small green beings, and when they're discovered, they kind of self-destruct, they end themselves. If you know what I mean, it's pretty heavy, and in the end, the robot destroys itself. The multi-bear, of course, right? A big black bear with 8 heads and 12 limbs. He has his main head, which is able to speak like a human. It even has a brain, which would be the main part of the creature, and is surrounded by 4 other heads. In the neck area, it has other heads, one on its back attached, a separate, partially formed body, and also on its groin. Well, Dipper ended up being challenged by Manitoris to kill the multi-bear and bring back one of its heads as a final test to prove his manliness. When Dipper arrived, the multi-bear showed a surprising degree of civility. He told Dipper that fighting him would be foolish and that if he didn't leave, he would be killed. But Dipper refused to leave, and the multi-bear then began to face Dipper in combat. Unfortunately for him, the multi-bear found Dipper to be very agile and small, and he fell on his back after being choked by Dipper's spearhold, the multi-bear. At his death, he ended up accepting his fate and only asked for one last request, to die while listening to his favorite song, and Dipper ended up granting his request. But he discovered to his surprise that the multi-bear really liked the song Disco Girl, a song that he himself liked. Upon discovering their common interest, the multi-bear and Dipper had a brief conversation about it before being brought back to the matter at hand. And because he was an honorable beast, the multi-bear made no attempt to take advantage of the situation and prepared to receive the final blow. However, he never did, because Dipper kind of refused to kill the beast after discovering he was a really nice guy, and because of that, Dipper didn't gain the manliness. If you watch the video up to this point, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share the video, because it helps me a lot, okay? I'll see you next time.